The purple-tinted atmosphere of Dririan 3 had always messed with my depth perception. That's why I told myself as I stumbled out of the space gate, nearly tripping over my own boots. The floating streets of this planet, hovering about 10 feet above ground level on pillars of contained energy, took some getting used to. Not that I planned to stay long enough to get used to anything. Gate arrival. Successful. Welcome to Dririan 3, Thavis Stone, announced the automated system, its voice so synthetic it made my teeth hurt. I grunted in acknowledgement and pulled up my contract details on my wrist display. The repair jobs lined up for me here were straightforward enough. Fix 6 quantum stabilizers in the Eastern District, recalibrate the atmosphere processors in a high-rise research facility, and debug a malfunctioning gravity manipulator at some rich alien's mansion. 3 days of work, tops. Then I'd be gone, just as I liked it. I'd built my entire career, my entire life, around never staying in one place long enough for roots to take hold. Thavis Stone, the guy who fixes things then disappears. It's a good reputation to have in my line of work. People don't expect small talk. They don't ask what you did last weekend or invite you to dinner. They just want their tech fixed, and I deliver. 700 credits for the gravity job alone. I muttered to myself, scrolling through the details. Not bad for MOM. Look, my dad is here. The shriek was so high-pitched and unexpected that I nearly dropped my datapad. I looked up, startled, to find a small alien child pointing directly at me. Her skin was a pale mint green, her oversized eyes literally glowing with a faint inner light, and her elongated ears, at least twice the length they should be for her head size, were quivering with excitement. What? I managed, but the little girl was already pulling away from who I presumed was her mother and racing toward me. Dad, you came back, she squealed, wrapping her tiny arms around my legs in a surprisingly strong grip. I stood frozen, arms raised awkwardly, not touching the child but desperately looking to the approaching adult for help. The mother was tall and slender, with the same pale green skin and elongated ears, though her eyes didn't glow. They narrowed in obvious surprise and confusion. Laney, what are you doing? Her voice was musical but firm. Let go of the stranger. But Mom, it's Dad. He came back just like you said he would someday. The child, Laney, looked up at me with absolute conviction in her luminous eyes. By now, a small crowd had gathered, watching the scene unfold with undisguised interest. Dririan 3's Central Gate Hub was always busy, and nothing draws a crowd like public awkwardness. I think there's been a mistake, I said, trying to gently extricate myself from Laney's grip without actually touching her. I'm not anyone's dad. I just arrived for work. You sound just like Dad, too. Laney's grip tightened. And you smell like him. The mother approached cautiously, studying my face with an intensity that made me uncomfortable. I apologized for my daughter. Laney, please release this man. He is not your father. But he is, Laney insisted, her voice rising to a pitch that had several nearby aliens with sensitive hearing wincing in pain. Look, kid, I've never been to this planet before, I lied. There had been that one time, years ago, during the Celestial Festival, but I've been blackout drunk for most of it and left within 48 hours. Nothing worth mentioning. I'm just a repair tech passing through. Perhaps we could discuss this somewhere more. Private, the mother suggested, looking pointedly at the growing audience. I'm Madria, and this is my daughter Laney. Thavis, I replied automatically, immediately regretting giving my real name. Look, I really have jobs to get to. One drink, Madria insisted. To clear this up, please. Against every instinct I'd cultivated over years of avoiding entanglements, I found myself nodding. Fine. One drink. The Starspill Cafe was exactly the kind of place I usually avoided. Quaint, colorful, filled with regulars who clearly knew each other. The drinks here, luminescent concoctions that changed color based on the consumer's mood, floated above the cups and emitted soft, pleasant melodies when sipped. My orange-yellow beverage kept drifting into a melancholy blue whenever I took a sip, much to Laney's amusement. It knows you're sad, she giggled, her own drink a permanent, cheerful pink. I'm not sad. I'm busy. I corrected, though the drink betrayed me by turning an even deeper blue. Madria watched the exchange with those same intense eyes. Laney I has never mistaken anyone for her father before, she said quietly. She's uncommonly perceptive, even for our species. Kids make mistakes all the time, I countered. I have a common face type, probably. You don't, Madria said flatly. And you mentioned you've never been. To Drerian 3, yet your gait adjusted to our gravity differentials almost immediately. Most first-timers struggle for days. I shifted uncomfortably. Good balance. Part of the job. Dad fixed things. Laney I chimed in, her eyes wide. Just like you. He can make broken stuff work again with just his hands. Most repair techs can, I said, but my throat felt oddly tight. When were you here last? Madria asked abruptly. And don't lie. I can tell. I sighed. Fine. I was here once, about 6 years ago, for the Celestial Festival. I got drunk, I partied, I left. That's it. Madria's face changed subtly. 6 years ago. Yeah. Laney I is 5. We locked eyes across the table. The implications hung in the air between us, alongside my now decidedly slate-gray drink. That's impossible, I stammered. I don't even remember. I was only here for 2 days, and You don't remember me? There was no accusation in her voice, just quiet inquiry. I was very drunk, I admitted. But even then, our species aren't exactly compatible, biologically speaking. There are ways, Madria said cryptically, especially during the Celestial Festival, when certain technologies are more accessible. Laney I, seemingly oblivious to the tension, had wandered to the cafe's robot assistant, a sleek machine named Nixie, who was teaching her how to make the drinks sing in harmony. This is ridiculous, I said, lowering my voice. You're telling me that I somehow, father-child, I don't remember with a woman I don't recognize from a species that shouldn't be compatible with mine? And now, what? You want to play daddy? Is this some kind of scam? Madria's eyes flashed dangerously. I have never asked anything of you, ever. I didn't even know your name until today. Laney I recognized you, not the other way around. I've got jobs lined up. Contracts. I can't just. Hey, Stone, a gruff voice interrupted our hushed argument. Thought I'd find you hiding in here instead of working. I turned to see Zhao, a burly contract broker who specialized in repair jobs, his forearms folded across his chest in mock disapproval. His reptilian features split into a grin when he saw my company. Ah, making friends already? That's not like you, Stone. Usually, you're all business. I'm all business, I insisted. I was just leaving. You were not, Madria said firmly. We haven't resolved anything. Zhao's eyes darted between us with growing interest. Resolved? Stone, you in trouble already? Been here, what, an hour? Mister, Stone may be my daughter's father, Madria said bluntly. Zhao's jaw literally dropped open, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Stone? A father? Huh. This guy runs from commitment like it's carrying a plague virus. He turned to me with gleeful malice. Remember that time on Jupiter Station when that dock worker asked if you wanted to get dinner sometime, and you literally jumped on a departing cargo ship? Not helping Zhao. Nixie, the robot assistant, had drifted over, their optical sensors rotating with interest. I couldn't help overhearing. Actually, that's a lie. I was deliberately eavesdropping, but may I suggest a genetic verification test? The Interplanetary Parenting Bureau on level 42 offers them for a reasonable fee. A test, I repeated. That made sense. A simple test would prove I wasn't this kid's father, and I could get back to my solitary, uncomplicated life. Acceptable, Madria nodded. If you're not Laney I's father, I won't keep you. But she has never randomly claimed anyone as her parent before. She's special that way. Laney I had skipped back to our table, holding a small, glowing origami creature that Nixie had folded for her. Can we go to the floating gardens after this, Dad? I want to show you the singing flowers. I looked at her beaming face and felt something twist in my chest. Let's do the test first, kid. Then we'll see. The Interplanetary Parenting Bureau was everything I hated about bureaucracy compressed into one gleaming, antiseptic building. Forms to fill out. lines to stand in, fees to pay, and worst of all, endless questions about my parenting philosophy and nurturing capacity. This is just a paternity test, I grumbled to the pink-tentacled official behind the counter. I don't need a full evaluation. Standard procedure, the official droned. All potential parents must complete the basic nurturing aptitude and child-rearing knowledge assessment before genetic testing. Zhao, who had insisted on tagging along for the entertainment value, was cackling in the corner. Oh, this is priceless. Stone, you should see your face. Madria, on the other hand, completed her stack of forms with practiced efficiency. Lanii sat beside her, swinging her legs and humming, occasionally producing small, harmless sound waves that made the air shimmer around her. Can she do that on purpose? I asked, nodding toward the sound waves. It's an ability our species develops around puberty, Madria explained. Lanii is precocious. She's been able to manipulate sound since she was 3. That's not normal. No. But then, Lanii isn't typical for our kind. She has unique genetic traits. Before I could ask more, an official called our names, and we were ushered into a small examination room. The genetic test itself was painless, a quick scan that analyzed cellular structure and DNA patterns without even breaking the skin. Results will be processed within 2 hours, the technician informed us. You may wait in the lobby or return later. 2 hours? I checked my work schedule. I can knock out the quantum stabilizer repairs in the Eastern District and be back by then. Madria nodded. We'll wait here. Some results require discussion with officials. I wonder what she meant by that, but was too eager for an escape to ask. Zhao followed me out, uncharacteristically quiet, until we were halfway down the floating street. You know you're screwed if that test comes back positive, right? He finally said. It won't. I replied, more confidently than I felt. And even if by some cosmic fluke it did, it doesn't change anything. I'm not father material. Damn right you're not. But those parenthood laws on Drerian 3 are no joke. If you're registered as the biological father, you're on the hook for mandatory parenting classes, financial support, and regular visitation. They'll revoke your interplanetary travel permit if you try to bail. I stopped walking. They can't do that. They absolutely can. This planet takes parenthood seriously. Why do you think half the traders avoid this place during mating season? One night of fun isn't worth 20 years of bureaucratic entanglement. I resumed walking, faster now. Let's get these repairs done. I need to get back for those results. The afternoon passed in a blur of work that couldn't distract me from the nagging dread in my gut. By the time I returned to the parenting bureau, my hands were steady, but my mind was racing. I found Madria sitting alone in the waiting area, her expression unreadable. Where's Lanii? I asked. With a caretaker. I thought it best she not be present for the initial results discussion. An official approached, holding a datapad. MS. Madria, Mr. Stone, please follow me. We were led to a private consultation room, where a severe-looking official with metallic skin waited. I am Senior Parentage Officer Trellis. We have the results of your genetic compatibility test. I hold my breath. Mr. Stone, your genetic material shows a 76% compatibility match with a minor Lanii. The room seemed to tilt. That's impossible. Not impossible, merely improbable, Officer Trellis corrected. While not a 100% match, 76% is well above our threshold for establishing a biological parental relationship, particularly in cases of interspecies parentage. I turned to Madria. Ow! She met my gaze steadily. The Celestial Festival 6 years ago featured experimental genetic harmonization technologies from the Andromeda systems. They were showcased more as art installations than medical procedures, but they worked. Some attendees experimented. And you didn't think to find me? To tell me I had a child? I didn't know who you were, she replied simply. It was a festival. We were both altered by the experience. You left before I even knew I had conceived. And truthfully, I wasn't certain the genetic donor was even responsible for Lanii's unique traits. She has abilities neither of our species typically possess. Officer Trellis cleared their throat. This brings us to the more complex matter. Given the interplanetary nature of this parentage and the unusual genetic profile of the child, certain protocols must be observed. Mr. Stone, as the confirmed biological parent, you are required to register with the parenting authority and complete a minimum of 120 hours of cross-species parenting education. 120 hours? I sputtered. That's insane. I have contracts, jobs lined up on other planets. Additionally, Trellis continued, undeterred, you must establish a residence on Drerian 3 until such time as an exemption can be approved by the Bureau. Failure to comply will result in the immediate suspension of your interplanetary travel privileges. Madria looked almost apologetic. The laws here are strict, especially for interspecies families. They're designed to protect the children. I didn't ask for this, I said weakly, though even as the words left my mouth, I felt a strange twist of guilt. I hadn't asked for it, true, but neither had Lainey I. Yet here she was, thinking I was some kind of returning hero, her father, home at last. Few parents do, Trellis said dryly. Yet responsibility comes nonetheless. Can I at least continue my repair work while I'm stuck here? Of course. Employment is encouraged for parents. We'll simply need to register your schedule and ensure appropriate care arrangements for the minor. I left the bureau in a daze, Madria walking silently beside me. The purple sky of Drerian 3 seemed to press down, the floating streets now feeling like a perfect metaphor for my untethered life suddenly suspended in place. I need to tell Lainey Madria finally said. She was right about you. She'll be very excited. How did she know? I asked. How could she possibly recognize me? Lainey has perceptive abilities beyond what we understand. She sees connections, patterns, vibrations that most beings miss. She's been drawing pictures of you for years, rather accurate ones too, though I didn't realize it until today. I don't know how to be a father, I admitted. I've spent my whole life avoiding exactly this kind of permanence. Madria's expression softened slightly. No one knows how at first. But Lainey doesn't need perfection. She just wants someone to do experiments with, to play with, to adventure with. She's been dreaming of you her whole life. No pressure, I muttered. Tomorrow, Madria said. Come by our home tomorrow. We can figure this out together. I nodded numbly and watched her walk away, my life's carefully constructed freedom collapsing around me like a house of cards. The following days passed in a surreal blur. I completed my repair contracts mechanically while attending mandatory parenting classes that felt like learning a foreign language. The concepts were simple enough: safety, nutrition, emotional support, but applying them to a 5-year-old half-alien with sound manipulation abilities felt overwhelming. Zhao found the whole situation hilarious. Never thought I'd see the day, he chortled, watching me scroll through a datapad of interspecies developmental milestones. Thavis Stone, Galaxy's most commitment-phobic repair tech, trapped by bureaucracy and a kid with glowing eyes. I'm not trapped, I insisted. It's temporary. I'll get an exemption or a waiver or something. Sure you will, Zhao smirked. And meanwhile, you're what? Playing house. He wasn't entirely wrong. I'd begun spending evenings at Madria's floating apartment, a modest but warm space filled with Lainey's artwork and strange, living plants that responded to sound waves. Lainey herself was a whirlwind of energy and questions, seemingly determined to make up for 5 years of fatherlessness in a matter of days. Dad, look at this, became the phrase I heard most frequently, followed by demonstrations of her sound abilities, which had twice shorted out my repair equipment, or complex questions about how things worked. Despite myself, I found her curiosity infectious. When she asked how the floating street stayed up, I found myself taking apart a miniature gravity manipulator to show her the principles. When she wondered why the sky was purple, we conducted experiments with light filtration that left my hands stained violet for days. Madria watched these interactions with careful neutrality, neither encouraging nor discouraging our growing bond. She remained enigmatic about her own work, frequently disappearing for hours on what she called research obligations. When pressed, She would only say it involved sound wave applications in medical technology. One evening, after Lainey and I had finally fallen asleep, Madria offered me a rare glass of Drurionian spirits on their balcony overlooking the glowing cityscape. "She's exhausting, isn't she?" Madria said, a hint of affection in her voice. "Like a perpetual motion machine," I agreed. "Does she ever stop asking questions?" "Never. Not since she could form words." Madria sipped her drink thoughtfully. "She's always been searching for answers. For connections. For me," I said quietly. Madria nodded. "She sensed you somehow. I thought it was just a child's fantasy, but why didn't you look for me?" The question had been burning inside me for days. "I tried at first," she admitted. "But the festival, you have to understand, thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds all converged here. And the genetic harmonization technology was experimental. Some records were lost or classified afterward when certain side effects became apparent. Side effects like Lainey I's abilities? Among others." Her gaze drifted toward the city. "There are people who are very interested in those side effects. People who would study them, replicate them, weaponize them if they could." A chill ran through me. Is Lainey I in danger? Not immediately, but eventually, as her abilities develop further, she might be. It's why I've been so careful, why I work where I do. Protection through knowledge. The conversation shifted to lighter topics after that, but the seed of worry had been planted. I found myself watching the shadows more carefully as I moved through the city in the following days. The final parenting assessment came sooner than I expected. After 2 weeks of classes, forms, and supervised interactions, I was summoned back to the Parenting Bureau for what Officer Trellis called the Parent-Child Interactive Assessment. "This is the final requirement before we can issue your parental certification," Trellis explained, leading Lainey I and me into a large room filled with various activity stations. The assessment measures natural bonding patterns, instinctive protective responses, and mutual trust development. "It's like a game, Dad." Lainey I bounced excitedly. "We get to solve puzzles together." "The observation will last approximately 2 hours," Trellis continued. "You are encouraged to engage naturally with no specific directive other than to interact with the provided materials." Left alone with Lainey I in the room, I felt suddenly self-conscious. "So, what should we do first?" She grabbed my hand without hesitation. "The sound puzzle. I saw it when we came in." The sound puzzle turned out to be a complex apparatus that created three-dimensional sound patterns when manipulated correctly. Within minutes, Lainey I had figured out how to create a miniature audio galaxy that hovered above the device, stars twinkling with different musical notes. "Your turn," she urged, pushing me toward the controls. I fumbled with the settings, creating a chaotic mess of clashing sounds. Lainey I giggled, but didn't take over. Instead, she guided my hands gently. "Feel the vibrations, Dad. Don't think so much." Following her lead, I closed my eyes and let my fingers drift across the controls. The sounds smoothed out, forming a simple but pleasing melody that joined with Lainey I's creation. "We're doing it together," she exclaimed, her eyes literally glowing brighter with excitement. For the next hour, we moved from station to station, building structures, solving puzzles, even creating a simple garden ecosystem. I was surprised at how easily we fell into a rhythm, anticipating each other's movements, building on each other's ideas. When Lainey I struggled with a particular mechanical challenge, I found myself explaining the principles without condescension, and when I misunderstood a cultural reference, she patiently elaborated. The assessment was going surprisingly well, until the alarm sounded. Red lights flashed throughout the facility, and a mechanical voice announced, "Security breach in Sector 7. All personnel initiate containment protocol. All civilians proceed to designated safety zones." "Dad!" Lainey I's eyes widened in fear, the glow diminishing to a faint flicker. I instinctively pulled her closer. "It's probably just a drill." The doors to our assessment room burst open. 3 figures dressed in unmarked black uniforms rushed in, their faces obscured by breathing apparatus that gave them an insectoid appearance. "Target identified," One of them said flatly, pointing at Laney I. Secure and transport. What the hell? I began, but one of them was already moving toward us, some kind of restraint device in hand. Regulatory inspection, the figure said mechanically. This specimen requires evaluation for illegal genetic modification. She's a child, not a specimen, I growled, pushing Laney I behind me. And you're not taking her anywhere. Non-compliance will be met with force, the second figure warned, drawing what looked like a neural disruptor from their belt. Officer Trellis appeared at the doorway, flanked by security personnel. Halt! You have no jurisdiction here. This is a sovereign parenting facility. The intruders hesitated only momentarily before the leader made a quick gesture. The other two lunged forward, one toward me and Laney I, the other toward Trellis and the security team. What happened next seemed to unfold in slow motion. The intruder reaching for Laney I triggered something primal in me. Without conscious thought, I grabbed the nearest object, a heavy construction puzzle, and hurled it at the attacker's head with precision born from years of mechanical work. It connected with a satisfying crunch, sending them stumbling backward. Simultaneously, Laney I let out a shriek that manifested as visible sound waves, concentric circles of vibrating air that slammed into the second attacker, disrupting their balance and causing their neural disruptor to fire wildly into the ceiling. Trellis and the security team engaged the third intruder, but they were clearly outmatched by whatever enhanced training or technology these individuals possessed. We need to get out of here, I said to Laney I, who looked both terrified and exhilarated by her own sonic outburst. Mom, she said urgently. We need to find Mom. The security alarms provided cover as I navigated us through back corridors, thankful for the repair work I'd done throughout the facility that had given me knowledge of its layout. I activated my wrist communicator, trying to reach Madria. They found us, she answered immediately, her voice tight with tension. Meet me at the Eastern Shuttle Bay. Don't use the main routes. Who are they? I demanded, guiding Laney I through a maintenance tunnel. Gene hunters, she replied grimly. Black market researchers. They track unique genetic expressions for weaponization and enhancement technology. They've been after Laney I's sound manipulation abilities for years. You knew this could happen. I felt anger rising alongside fear. I've been protecting her, Madria shot back. Successfully, until the parenting registration put her in the system. I wanted to argue further, but we'd reached a junction where I needed to concentrate. The Eastern Shuttle Bay was still half a kilometer away, through increasingly populated areas where we'd be exposed. Laney I said, kneeling to her level. Can you make your eyes stop glowing? Just for a little while. She nodded solemnly and closed her eyes in concentration. When she opened them, the telltale glow had dimmed to nearly nothing. Good girl. Now we're going to walk very normally to meet your mom. If anyone asks, we're just heading home from shopping. Are the bad people trying to take me away because I'm different? She asked, her small hand clutching mine tightly. They're trying to take you because you're special, I corrected. But I'm not going to let that happen. That's what dads do. They protect their kids. The words came out automatically, but as soon as I said them, I realized I meant them. Somewhere in the past 2 weeks, between the bureaucratic nightmare and the awkward bonding sessions, this child, my child, had become someone I would fight for. We made it to the shuttle bay without incident, though the facility-wide alarm was still blaring. Madria was waiting, her usual calm demeanor replaced by tightly controlled panic. We need to get off planet, she said without preamble. They'll have the spaceport monitored, but I have access to a research vessel in the secondary dock. Whoa, hold on, I protested. I can't leave the planet. My permit dash. They tried to abduct our daughter, Favis. Madria snapped. Your parenting permit is the least of our concerns right now. Our daughter. The phrase hit me with unexpected force. Before I could respond, a calm, official voice spoke from behind us. No one needs to leave the planet. We turned to find Officer Trellis, looking somewhat battered but composed, approaching with a small security detail. The unauthorized collection agents have been detained, they continued, though I suspect they were merely contractors, not the principals behind this attempt. They'll try again, Madria said flatly. They always do. Perhaps, Trellis acknowledged. But now the situation has been officially documented, and the child is under registered protection protocols, including parental guardianship. They looked pointedly at me, which brings us to an important matter. The parent-child interactive assessment was interrupted, but what we observed was quite sufficient. Trellis produced an official-looking document from their robes. Thavis Stone, in accordance with the Interplanetary Parenting Act, you are hereby granted conditional parental certification and legal recognition as Laney's biological father, with all rights and responsibilities thereof. I stared at the document, trying to process what was happening, even though the test showed only a 76% match. Genetics is only part of parenthood, Mr. Stone, Trellis said, with what might have been a smile on their metallic features. Your instinctive protective response to danger and the natural bond we observe between you and Laney exceeds many of our standard genetic match families. Laney was bouncing on her toes. Does this mean Dad can stay? Forever and ever? Trellis tilted their head. The certification includes a modified travel clause. Given Mr. Stone's occupation, he is permitted interplanetary travel for work purposes, provided he maintains regular contact and returns to Drerian. 3 for no less than 10 consecutive days each standard month. You're giving me partial freedom? I asked, stunned. We're recognizing reality, Trellis corrected. You are a traveler by nature and profession. Forcing you to remain permanently would create resentment harmful to the parent-child bond. But you also have responsibilities now that cannot be abandoned. Madria was watching me carefully, her expression unreadable. What will you do? It was the question I'd been avoiding since the moment Laney had first called me Dad in the spaceport. My entire adult life had been built around freedom, around the ability to leave any place or situation when it became uncomfortable. Commitment was a foreign concept, a trap I'd successfully avoided. And yet, looking at Laney and my daughter, I felt something I hadn't expected, not the weight of chains, but the warmth of connection. I'll stay, I heard myself say. Not permanently, not all the time, but I'll be here for the 10 days, and probably more when I can arrange it. I turned to Laney, I'll be your dad. I mean, I am your dad, but I'll act like one. Try it to anyway. Laney's eyes lit up, literally, with a brilliant glow. I knew you'd stay. I saw it in my dreams. Her perceptive abilities may include limited predictive capacity, Madria murmured, almost to herself. Fascinating. About those abilities, I said seriously. We need better protection. If these gene hunters found her once, they'll try again. Trellis nodded. The Bureau will provide official protection resources, but I suggest you also consider private security measures. And perhaps less conspicuous housing. I know people, I said, thinking of the various security specialists I'd encountered in my travels. And I can install some custom protections. We'll figure it out, Madria said, with the first genuine smile I'd seen from her. Together, Laney echoed, grabbing both our hands and swinging them. Like a real family. Not exactly like a typical family, I thought. A repair tech with wanderlust, a mysterious researcher mother, and a genetically unique child with glowing eyes and sound powers, living on a purple skied planet with floating streets. But maybe that was okay. Maybe family was whatever we made it. The purple dusk of Drerian, 3 settled around us as we left the shuttle bay, Laney skipping between Madria and me, chattering about showing me her favorite spot in the floating gardens. For the first time since I could remember, the impulse to run, to find the next contract on the next planet, was quiet in my mind. I looked up at the strange constellations emerging in the violet sky, thinking about the journeys I'd still take, the planets I'd still visit. But now, for the first time, I'd have something I hadn't realized I was missing. Somewhere, someone to come back to. Hey, Dad. Laney tugged at my hand, breaking my reverie. Can we get ice cream? The kind that changes flavor when you sing to it. I laughed, surprising myself with how natural it felt. Sure, kid. Lead the way. As we followed her bouncing form toward the glowing city center, Madria gave me a sidelong glance. You're really staying? Even with your freedom clause. I'm staying. I confirmed, the certainty of it settling comfortably in my chest. Turns out freedom isn't just about being able to leave. Sometimes it's about choosing to return. Ahead of us, Lainey and I twirled in a circle, her laughter creating visible ripples in the air around her. My daughter. Still strange to think those words, but getting less strange by the minute. Sometimes life's biggest changes come when you least expect them. Like when a little alien girl sees you and shouts, "Mom, look, my dad is here." And sometimes, against all odds and your own better judgment, she's right.